This is Sarah Mikesel with the Poultry site, and today we're here with Dr. Ashley Peterson. She is the Senior Vice President of Scientific and Regulatory Affairs with the National Chicken Council. Thanks for being with us today, Ashley.
Thanks for having me.
Very good. And we're here at the Poultry Symposium down in Arkansas, and you just presented to a large audience here. Tell me a little bit about your message.
Absolutely. So there were a number of topics that we addressed today. The first being avian influenza.
Right.
Avian influenza is still impacting our industry, which not only impacts what we deal with here domestically, but also has trade impacts on our industry as well. So we had a recent detection just this week in California, which is concerning and a little bit different than what we've seen with this virus, specifically what we dealt with in 2014 and 15. So we walked the group through that. Of course, biosecurity is the number one thing that we can be doing as an industry to try to keep avian influenza out of our houses. We also talked about line speeds. There are about 50 companies across the U.S. who have a line speed waiver. And so that means that they can run birds up to 175 birds a minute. And there are some new requirements that USDA has set forth for those companies as it pertains to worker safety, so that those establishments can continue to run at a higher line speed. And essentially they're looking to gather data to make sure that those establishments are safe for their employees.
Right.
Another thing that we talked about at length was Salmonella. There are lots of activities within the agency pertaining to Salmonella. Of course, public health is the number one priority for our industry, and making sure that every chicken serving is consumed safely. And there have been some outbreaks in past years associated with that not ready to eat but appears ready to eat stuffed chicken products like chicken cordon bleus and chicken Kievs. Fortunately, in the last 7 years, there's only been one outbreak associated with that, which one is too many.
Right.
The agency on August 1st said that they would be declaring Salmonella an adulterant in that product class, and they would be setting a standard or a threshold at 1 CFU per gram. We will see more about that in October. We expect that to come out from the agency then. They also have made an announcement on some of their thinking on a regulatory framework. Of course, as I said, public health is the number one priority for us, and we haven't seen a decrease in cases or people getting sick from Salmonella. And we want to make sure that we continue to drive that number down. Our Salmonella rates in our plants are going down as we discussed next door. So we're clearly doing great things within the industry, but we're not seeing that shift in public health. And so the agency is rethinking their framework and their strategy with regard to regulating Salmonella. Some of that has to do with changing our HACCP plans, incoming flocks and measuring incoming load, and then product standards is the last one. So a lot, again, kind of unknown right now. We only have some basics, but we should be learning more from the agency in October. So that's about 6 weeks from now.
Yeah.
The final thing that we talked about was the NCC broiler welfare guidelines.
Right.
We've had welfare guidelines in place since 1999 through the National Chicken Council, and we revamp those and pull in the latest data and science to make changes to those. This time we are focusing on key welfare indicators, so things that we can actually measure and work to make sure that our birds are raised humanely, and that we have ways that we can audit that so that we can drive continuous improvement over time.
Very good, very good. And I guess let's circle back a little bit to Salmonella, because you shared a lot of data and you referenced it before. You guys are really monitoring Salmonella in the industry, as well as other pathogens, right?
Absolutely.
But USDA seems especially focused on Salmonella.
Right, exactly. So USDA announced their Salmonella initiative last fall. Again, to look at collecting information and collecting data to make a regulatory change. We don't know what that's going to be necessarily, but again, we want to make sure that every every chicken serving is served safely and everybody has a great eating experience. So if there are things that we need to be doing as an industry and looking at things a little bit differently, then by all means, we're open to new ideas. We do work to control Salmonella from farm to fork. So we have very robust vaccination programs, we have very robust sanitation programs, biosecurity is very important, and so we use all of these things as part of a multi-hurdle approach to make sure that the birds that are coming into the processing plant have very low levels of Salmonella. And then of course in the processing plant itself we have a number of interventions that we use throughout to again reduce Salmonella as you get closer to that finished product.
One of the things that I learned is I started working a little bit more in the food safety, and that part of the value chain is that the industry comes together, right? We're sitting in a room with a lot of competitors over there.
Right.
But when it comes to food safety, the industry comes together and works so well as a team. I'm a little bit even shocked by it myself. But that helps your organization, I would assume, and the industry really build the case for the data, right? For the science behind what's being recommended.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we have a working group of processor members that have been meeting 2 or 3 times a year for the last, I want to say, since 2015.
Right.
And sharing best practices. And again, as you said, food safety is not competitive. Right. And we can all do better together if we work together and bring that data and that know-how, and everybody can learn and share, and again with that goal of continuous reduction.
Right. I just think it's important that people understand these aren't people just sitting on a panel at a discussion. They're sitting down across each other,
right.
Sitting down at a table, really talking about what can be done, right?
Absolutely.
It makes a big difference, I think, for the industry when people are able to come together like that.
And I think we've seen it. I mean, the data that we talked about, we are well below the performance standards for Salmonella on both whole birds and parts, and we'll continue to keep getting better.
Very good. Well, thank you, Ashley, for all your time today.
Absolutely, thank you.
This is Sarah Mikesell with the Poultry Site.